Hello, everyone, and welcome into episode number 17 of the Vulture's Row podcast. I'm your host, Joey Bonsanti. Across the monitor from me, Pat Winters, Tony Vegas. How you guys doing? We are on also the Discord show for Badlands. So once again, thanks to the guys at Badlands. I'll start with you, Tony. How you doing? It's been a little while.
We're doing great. I mean, it's picking up. We got Minicamp kicking off. We're getting an extended look at Justin Fields, Aaron Glenn. The defense, the offensive play calling from our guy Tanner Angstrom. It's super exciting stuff, and it's nice to see Jets football picking up a little. Obviously, shout out the Badlands guys. We're going to be doing some shows the next 3 weeks on the feed, so that's going to be fun. Obviously, shout out to those guys for the opportunity. And yeah, I mean, we're back, baby. Let's friggin' roll.
Mr. Pat?
Doing good. I'm starting to this team is growing on me as the off season goes on. I just really like there's this quiet confidence about it, which at least in my opinion, which I really am enjoying, and I'm really starting to believe more and more in Justin Fields. I just like the way he carries himself, and I like everything that's been coming out of camp, the little things that have been coming out of camp. That's been, it's all been pretty positive. And it seems like, the vibe in the building has shifted a little bit. The players are really responding well. Not that they necessarily weren't last year at this time, but you just feel that they're starting to get to some sort of sense of normalcy, to what we hope would be in the NFL. So I'm pretty excited about that. Obviously, that could all come crashing and burning like it normally does, but I'm going to remain optimistic for the time being.
Yeah, I agree with you. For the most part, I mean, 100% attendance. It's a very quiet confidence. We have a former quarterback of ours in a different town talking about his, soul finding himself. I'm just happy that we're focusing on football. I don't want to talk too much about other quarterbacks, but I just figured it's like a breath of fresh air this time around after the past 2 years in terms of how it feels around the building. I mean, obviously, we're not there, but just everything on social media and how the organization's perceived right now.
I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, it's and I was the biggest Aaron defender for a long time, but he's unfucking believable, right? He comes in with a wedding ring on, and now everyone's guessing who his wife is. It's he's too funny, man. He's unbelievable. But
yeah, and we have Zach Wilson over in Dolphins camp saying this is the first time he's ever been told that he's late on throws. It's unreal.
Whole career, dude, from high school to now, it's the first time. Wow.
I don't want to spend too much time talking about that.
Stuff.
It's nice to have a quarterback that carries himself with some quiet confidence, and it seems like that's kind of the overall vibe of the team. I feel like it seems like it's a little more organized. It's not like we always say this, but it doesn't feel like that circus, vibe that we're so used to being Jets fans. So we're looking forward. It's going to be great. This is going to be the most fun 8-win team in NFL history.
Yeah, it's very quiet, which we like. So as you see in the title, we have a Connor Hughes interview, second time on the show. Really good interview. We're looking forward to crack into it. Before we toss it to him, do you guys have any closing thoughts? Want to preface the interview with anything? Or do we want to just toss it right to Connor right now?
No, it was a good one. Some Sopranos stuff, some Jets stuff. Very Badlands-esque, actually. Sopranos. That's right.
We really cover all of our bases here, from Steve Wilks' defensive scheme to AJ Soprano. So
we'll be very happy.
Joe Cap will be happy with this one. We're happy to be on the feed.
Absolutely. So thank you once again to Badlands. I won't waste any more of your time. Let's send it over to Connor. Now we'd like to welcome back in SNY reporter Connor Hughes. Connor, it's been a while. We're on episode 17. You joined us episode 1 for the inaugural episode. How you doing, Connor?
I'm doing well, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you for being flexible with the timing here. We got my daughter's second birthday in 2 weeks, so we're in DEF CON 1 of getting the house ready for I don't even know how many kids and family to be over this place. So today's to-do list was power washing the siding of the back of the house. So on Amazon, I got one of those power washer extender things, which seemed like a great idea when I ordered it. And then they really don't tell you just how hard it is to control that goddamn thing. So it was a battle. At one point, my wife and I were both holding the thing, trying to keep it steady. It wasn't fun. I'll give you that. It wasn't fun.
Just as the only other parent in here, after this birthday, you're going to want to have them not at the house.
Yes.
Yeah. My son's second birthday after that, I said, we're doing it at wherever we can do it,
Yeah.
like typical kid places. But
I think that's probably what we're getting to. That's what we're
yeah,
getting. We
I don't
cut the
blame you.
from what was it? From first birthday to second birthday, we cut the invite list down. So like
There you go.
we were not doing like everyone, like aunts, uncles on both sides, cousins. It's like immediate family and then our friends that also have kids. I
Yeah.
think for the next one we're cutting it even more. We're going like if you've got a kid, then you can come and that's it. And we'll do it for like
There you
15
go.
of us.
All right, yeah. So let's jump right into it. Obviously, so mandatory minicamp is going on
Yeah.
right now, right? OTAs happened. We're pretty well into the off season, so being around the building now for OTAs, obviously, with mandatory minicamp going on right now, how do you think the vibe in the organization has been as opposed to this time last year? Like, have you sensed a shift in the building, and how do you feel like the players have responded that were here last year? Now, how are they responding to Aaron Glenn as opposed to Robert Saleh? Like, what's the overall shift you've seen?
Yeah, that's the thing is that there was never with Robert. The one thing I'll always say that there was never a losing of the team, like what happened with Gase, or kind of what happened at points with Todd, where the Jets would play a game and then just get embarrassed, where it looked like they were completely unprepared. I mean that never happened with Robert. Like there were bad games, but every coach has bad games. But for the most part, that locker room still believed in him. That locker room still liked him, which is why when he was fired as abruptly as he was. There were so many people within the players that spoke that were like, we feel responsible for this. We don't think this should have happened like that. It was never it was so toxic last year and now suddenly it's so much better. Like it really wasn't like that. And even when Ulbrich took over, Ulbrich was so lenient and a players coach that the players didn't hate him either. So it wasn't anything like that. I will say the biggest feel difference, and I talked about that a little bit today, and talked about with the social video I had to do, and then it's on Sports Night as well tonight. Um, the biggest feel difference I think between these practices and the ones with Saleh is that Aaron Glenn has stressed, and he said this to him when we talked to him before the first minicamp practice about competition, 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 and that is such like a coaching cliche that when he said it, it's almost like, oh yeah, everybody wants everyone to compete. Like legitimately, everybody says that we want competition, we love competition, yada yada yada. But he really has put an emphasis on it in such a unique and different way because normally in OTAs, normally in minicamp, and this is not a comparison of Robert to Aaron, it's a comparison of Rex and Todd and Robert and Rex and Todd and Adam and Robert to Aaron, is that 99.9% of the time the offense and defense do go against each other, but it's scripted. So like balls put at the 25-yard line, offense runs a play that they showed in the meeting they were going to run an hour ago. They run the play no matter what happens, 80-yard touchdown, 80-yard pick six. The ball goes right back to the original spot, and then they run the second play that was scripted, and then they run the third play that was scripted, and then they run the fourth play that was scripted. Then the first team comes off, and the second team goes on, so on and so forth. Then the third team, then the fourth team, and that's how it works. And maybe once over the course of minicamp or once over the course of the OTA practices we're at, you see them move the ball, period. And usually it's just like an end of practice situational drill where the starters are put like 1:20 on the clock, you're down 4, go try to go down and score. Like that's the only time. And if they don't score, the second team comes in third team. This year, in both minicamp practices we've seen, and we'll have another one here. I don't know when this is. I'm assuming it's probably going to run tomorrow. So we got one more minicamp practice to go. Um, in both of the practices that we've been at so far, the majority of the team drill 11 on 11 work has been a pseudo scrimmage, which I have not seen in a long time. So the offense takes over at the 20-yard line, and then it is their job to go down the field and score a touchdown. And if they pick up a first down, but ultimately the drive fails and they have to punt, the punt team goes on. If they fail in the red zone or they fail in field goal range, the field goal unit goes on. If they throw a turnover or an interception or the punt or the field goal, then the second team goes up against the second team defense. And it's created this spirited, intense, lively environment that I haven't necessarily seen in quite a while. I mean, there was Garrett Wilson on, what is it, Wednesday? There was Garrett Wilson hooting and hollering because another receiver made a catch at the sideline where he's running up and screaming, and the defense is chirping and yelling on the other sideline when those guys make a play. So that competition that I thought was like a cliche coach speak, like just kind of didn't pay any mind to it, Glenn has truly created that here at Jets practices, and it's. I'll be honest, as someone who's watching them, it's been fun to observe.
That's obviously super positive, because Aaron Glenn's obviously been probably the biggest topic of conversation this offseason. And
Yeah.
I would say the second biggest person is probably Justin Fields, right?
Yeah.
So how would you feel so far? He's led this team. How's he been performing? Like, how has the Justin Fields era started to date? I feel like from an outside perspective, it feels like the players are relieved in a sense of his like quiet leadership as opposed to last year, maybe. And obviously his old teammates are raving about him, but I feel like his quiet leadership's kind of been the talk. But how would you feel the Justin Fields era has started to date?
Yeah, it's so like you can't. I don't want to make too much of it. Like I would say the arm talent has been of a pleasant surprise for me. Like admittedly, I didn't watch much Bears football. You know what I mean? I caught snippets of Fields' games when he was with the Steelers, but for the most part, I didn't really watch him there either. So I know what Steelers people told me about Fields. I know what NFL people and NFL talent evaluators told me about Fields and what to expect. But other than that, like I knew he could run. I knew he was an athlete, and I remembered him in the bowl game where he lit the world on fire.
Of course.
And the semifinal. I think it was the
Everyone thought he
semifinal.
was going to be the second pick, right?
Yeah, where he threw like 6 touchdowns or something
Yeah.
like that. Like whatever that one was. I remember watching him there. I would say what has stood out to me though through these two practices and more so than OTAs, because OTAs wasn't a great sample size. He throws a really pretty ball. More than I expected. Like there are definitely some errant passes, and when he misses, he tends to really miss. Like it'll go way over a guy's head, or you'll be like, "Whoa, that was an ugly throw." But there are some passes that he's thrown. Like there was one he threw on Wednesday to Garrett Wilson, 45 yards down the field, dropped it into an absolute bucket, like over the shoulder, Garrett Wilson in full stride, and just dropped it in his hands. The touchdown that he threw to Reynolds, it was only like it was from the 2 or 3 yard line, but it was a corner route to the back pylon. And he just again floated it. Beautiful touch over the defender, right in Reynolds' hands, who tapped his 2 feet and scored a touchdown in the back corner. So those throws, that physical ability, you look and you're like, wow. You know what I mean? And then you obviously talk
Yeah.
about the runner that everybody knows he can be. So there is uh, a ridiculous amount of physical ability there where you understand why the Jets were like, this is a guy we're worth risk. Like, this is worth the risk. This is worth the chance. If we're going to roll the dice on anybody, I'd rather roll the dice with him than trading for someone like Kirk Cousins to be our veteran quarterback for a couple of years. Like, I get it. You just still need to see the mental first quarter through fourth quarter several weeks in a row, like see that part catch up. And it's very hard to tell that in a mini camp OTA practice. Like you got to see it day after day after day in training camp, and then especially when the regular season comes.
I feel
But
like
I
with
would say
the
the physical gifts are
yeah, and
undeniable.
I feel like too, like the pads aren't on, and obviously they're not going to tackle like you're not really going
Yeah.
to see his running ability till week one. Maybe
Yeah.
some preseason, but you know,
Yeah,
that's going
dude,
to be
it's
one thing
there.
we're really
Like
not going to be able to see.
he's a more talented thrower than he's not like Aaron.
Yeah,
Aaron was an alien, but he's a more talented physical thrower than Sam was. He's a much more talented physical thrower than Zach was. Like I mean, like even at their best when they were with the Jets, and Sam, I like obviously Sam was always a sneaky good athlete.
yeah,
So he would make some like the touchdown to Braxton that he threw. Like there were plays like that where you were like, whoa, where'd that come from? Or like if you guys remember against the Ravens, the touchdown he threw to Jamison Crowder. Like there were throws like that where you're like, holy crap, Sam. But like it didn't necessarily always look normal. Like he kind of had a unique throwing motion. He kind
Yeah.
of like it didn't always look perfect. And then Zach was kind of a disaster. With Justin, like it not only looks right, like it is a unbelievable amount of physical gifts. And I didn't think I would see it as the passer. Like I didn't think when he was coming up here, I didn't think I'd see it as a thrower. It's very clear that no, he can throw the football. This isn't like uh a running quarterback that can't throw like you see come around. No, he can throw. He can make every single throw and has accuracy. He just does need to the mental, the reading, all of that needs to be there as well for him to truly be the quarterback that the Jets are hoping this risk that they're taking on he can be.
Cool. So let's stick on the offensive side of the ball here. We know, let's shift to the wide receiver room.
Yeah.
We know Garrett Wilson's the guy, obviously. We heard Aaron Glenn today say we want to get him the ball as much as possible. Outside of Garrett Wilson, though, what does that room look like? I want to know what are some roles like for guys like Arian Smith, for guys like Corley moving forward? Do you see anyone added into this wide receiver room? And is there a guy that you could see really taking that wide receiver 2 position heading
I
into
don't.
the rest of the summer?
Yeah, I don't think they'll add anyone. Maybe like roster cut day. I could see maybe that happening, but I would be kind of surprised at this point if they went out and signed somebody big. Like I don't think anyone out there in free agency is going to be like, oh, this guy's going to make a huge difference. It's Reynolds is wide receiver too. I mean that is clear. Like he is the guy that's wide receiver too. Um, Gibson's kind of getting first crack there in the slot. He's been used there quite a bit. Corley's an interesting name, man. There's just there were a lot of maturity issues with him with the Jets last year. I mean, whether it was them coming to him and asking him to play special teams and him saying no, him basically kind of just showing up with the Jets and expecting to be like the wide receiver 3 in the slot and getting all these plays designed for him and not understanding why no, we're designing plays for Garrett and we're designing plays for Devontae. Like there was just so much that went on last year that a change of pace, a new regime, everything probably was the best thing for Corley. But he's been hurt and he hasn't even been on the field. So like even these guys, when we keep asking about Corley, they're like, well, he needs to get back out there. Well, he needs to get back out there. Well, he needs to get back out there. We were talking to Tanner today on Wednesday. He was saying the same thing. Like, yeah, he's in the meetings, but like there's a difference between just seeing it and then going out there and doing it as a second year player. So Corley certainly has the talent and the gifts and the physical ability to be a pretty good NFL player. There's just he's gotta want it, and I think there were a lot of points last year where he didn't necessarily want it. Arian Smith is a very very interesting candidate because I believe he's hurt right now, so unfortunately we haven't seen him in the first 2 days of minicamp. Doubt at this point we'll see him in the third. I think the Jets will probably just put him on the shelf until training camp. You don't want to tweak anything. But he's somebody that if he comes out there and has a good camp, I could absolutely see him carving out a role for himself to play 10 to 15 offensive snaps a game. And then if he takes a step even more and shows that he brings more than Reynolds, this isn't going to be something where like the Jets are so hell bent in Reynolds, he's a veteran, they're just going to stick with Reynolds. No, like if Arian Smith shows that he's deserving of an increased role because he's got a higher ceiling, they'll put him out there. So he's a
Corley,
fascinating. Well, honestly, guys, it's a shame because I was really looking forward to seeing Arian Smith in minicamp now that I was like multiple days in a row and I was going to be able to spend a lot of time here with the Jets before going to the Giants next week. I was really looking forward to it, so I was kind of bummed when he's been on the sideline.
Corley's starting to give me like it's starting to stink of like not from a character perspective, because I don't know Denzel Mims, but it's starting to stink of like Denzel Mims year 1, year 2, where like new regime came in and he was just kind of like the outcast of the last one and didn't fit into the scheme or whatever, and it was just over. And even Denzel Mims, even his rookie year was a little bit better too. Obviously, he had some play, but I don't know. It's my Jet senses are stinking with that one. So
yeah, I think that's the bummer, man, because I think with Denzel, like, we should go back and talk about this again. Like, Denzel had a skill set that Adam Gase wanted. Like, Adam Gase wanted linear speed. That's what he wanted in his offense, and that's what Denzel was. Denzel was never a route technician. He was a big mother effer who would go win 50-50 balls way down the field. And LaFleur didn't want that. LaFleur wanted route technician. You know what I mean? He wanted a guy that was going to be like Garrett Wilson, shifty. Elijah Moore, shifty. Corey Davis, while a bigger guy, shifty. That's what LaFleur wanted. So he just found himself out. And then he kind of mentally checked out. Like it was like it started going south with that. And dude, we used to watch him. Like Jet fans used to get on my ass so much because he and Makai were like 2 lightning rod players where fans loved him and they didn't like hearing negative stuff. I would watch him go through the ladder drill, dude, and like you'd see like Braxton Berrios go, and he was like, and then like someone else would be like crazy, like going through the ladder drill, and then Denzel goes there, and it's like he's lollygagging and slipping through and didn't care, and like that's the shit that would just drive the coaches mad. Like you're fighting for a spot, dude. Just show some effort. Like try out there, please.
Yeah. Staying on the offensive side of the ball, because that's what everyone wants to hear about.
Yeah.
Tanner Angstrom, right? That was a big hire this offseason. What does his offense kind of look like thus far? I know you mentioned he's utilizing Garrett Wilson more in that like Mike LaFleur-esque
Yes.
role as opposed to Nate Hackett. So
Mhm.
how do you kind of see his offense? Like, do you kind of see it being a run first offense? And how do you see Garrett Wilson as the focal point of the passing game being used a little differently than when Hackett was here?
A lot more motion. That's
Thank
for damn
God.
sure. So it's not like Aaron and that was an Aaron thing and Hackett as a result of Aaron. It was just Aaron's belief, and he told me this once, was like he didn't believe in the motions and his thing was like line up, get in our positions, let me read the defense, and then just run your play. Like you don't need all this. And again, that was his belief. He's been very successful with it, but also there's probably a reason why the best offenses in the NFL all use motion. So Tanner's back to using a ton of motion. As far as like Brees told us on Wednesday that Tanner loves running the ball. We haven't seen that in minicamp yet. We didn't see that in OTAs, but that's because these are really passing camps. You know what I mean? Like the line can't block. So we might get to the regular season and the Jets are going to run the ball 60, 70% of the time. Like that might very well happen. They're just not doing it right now in minicamp because it's a passing camp. With Garrett Wilson, I think what surprises me so pleasantly with him right now, and it's very different from the way he was used the last 2 years, is that he is no longer pigeonholed into a position. Like I felt like under Nathaniel Hackett, Garrett Wilson say he was the X, and then eventually wasn't the X when Devontae showed up. But whatever, like the X would like go line up over there. You're the X receiver is supposed to run this route. You're X receiver. Go to the X receiver spot and run that route. And if you're open, we'll throw it to you. And if you're not, what Tanner's doing with Garrett is they are designing routes very clearly for him. They are moving him all over the field. So yeah, he'll be outside, then he'll be inside, then he'll be lined up behind a guy in a stack formation. Like he's all over the place, and it's clearly a focal point to get him the ball in different ways that amplify and exemplify his strengths. I mean, like, the best way to put it is, so I charted. I was actually joking with somebody at the Jets because they were making fun of me for tracking passes. I was like, you know what, guys, I'm going double down. I'm tracking targets now. Like I'm tracking passes and
That's what we
targets
live
now.
for.
Yeah, now I will say, like having to do the Giants camp and literally track first team, second team, third team.
Yeah.
With the Jets, I'm only tracking starters. Like I'm not
Right.
tracking Tyrod Taylor's targets. But when Justin Fields has been in there, he has targeted Garrett Wilson over the last 2 days of minicamp 10 times. So minicamp's a great barometer because we're seeing them back to back to back days. It's not like OTAs where it's one a week. So Garrett could be the focal point of practice Wednesday and not thrown 2 once on Tuesday. And we wouldn't know, right? Like we wouldn't.
Right.
This one, we're seeing them 3 days in a row. So you can really kind of get a picture of what they're trying to accomplish. He's been targeted 10 times over the last 2 days, right? That's a lot considering the second most targeted player is Josh Reynolds at 5. And then behind Josh Reynolds, I think there's Mason Taylor at 2. So it is very, very clear that the ball is Garrett Wilson, get Garrett Wilson the ball. And we've seen Garrett Wilson on a deep go route on the seam. We've seen Garrett Wilson on outs. We've seen Garrett Wilson on ins. We've seen Garrett Wilson on end arounds. Like we've seen Garrett Wilson 37 million different ways. So it's definitely going to make Garrett happy because this is all he's ever wanted. And it's also a pleasant change of pace that like there's actually some legitimate creativity here within the Jets offense for the first time, probably in all seriousness, since LaFleur. And I know people hated LaFleur. I was a big fan of him, and a big reason for it was like, if you remember, people were stealing plays from the Jets for the first time ever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so unfortunately they ran him out of town, but it's kind of cool to see.
Targets and an extension, hopefully, for Garrett. But yeah, that's great news to hear. So kicking to the defensive side of the ball a little bit. I've been talking about this a little bit. Like Germaine Johnson, in my opinion, is a really big question heading into this year. Like I personally am a little worried that they're relying a little too much on him or is expecting too much from him. And I think Zach wrote it today that, Clemens has been filling in, obviously, for him, which just scares the shit out of all of us probably. But, I know you were around for this too, right? Like, when Carl, like this injury that he had was it's a killer injury, for most players, right? I mean, we saw it happen to Carl Lawson, right? And that took the air out of the balloon for that whole training camp, right? So this is a really big injury, and I just feel that they're putting a little too much. Are they putting too much stock in him coming back? Like, where do you feel he's at? How do you feel he's progressed from injury? What are your expectations for him this year?
Yeah, we haven't seen Germaine at all, other than talking to him, just because he's working off on the side. He's going to start camp on the pup list, which is normal. That's expected. One thing I will say on Carl is that he actually recovered okay in that second year from the Achilles. Like he
Yeah.
had 7 sacks, if I'm not mistaken. I would expect that to kind of be what you're looking at with Germaine here, is that he's probably only going to be 60 or 70% of what he was. I don't think you can expect, again, sometimes other positions you can see it and it can work, like alignment, like an offensive lineman, or sometimes tight ends, or maybe occasionally a receiver. But like when it's a defensive lineman and a defensive end specifically, everything is about your burst off the ball. And when you're bursting off the ball, like that's a lot of pressure on your Achilles. You know what I mean? So I think it's going to take him a year to get back to what he was. He'll be on the field. I think he's going to be a quality player, an above average player, but I don't know if we'll see the Pro Bowl player this year, like we did a couple years ago before that injury, and the dominant player. But I think he could still be a good player for the Jets. I wouldn't be worried long term about Germaine, and Carl is a really good example of it. Like I know you said, like what happened to him, like
Yeah.
the injury that derailed him, right? It wasn't the Achilles. It was he had the Achilles injury, actually back to back Achilles injuries. But then he came back in year 2, or after the Achilles injury, had the 7 sacks, was still a pretty serviceable situation. Like he was still a pretty good player for the Jets. The next year he hurt his back, and the
Right.
back injury is what just ended him. Like that was basically borderline career ender. Like he has never been the same after his back injury. And I remember talking to people over at the Jets, like, what the hell happened to Carl? And like they said basically, like, hey, look, we're not phasing him out for anything. He hurt the back, he lost his strength, and then it all just kind of spiraled after that, and it just got bad. So Germaine, I think you'll see him on the field to be a good player this year. I don't think he'll be great until next year, which is probably a big reason why the Jets picked up that 5th-year option for him.
Carl was such a great guy too, which is why it was a shame. Jermaine's
He really
obviously
was.
a really good.
I still keep in touch with him. Like I was really happy for him to see him. He landed with the Cowboys.
Yes, he did.
And then had a game where he had 2 sacks. So I hit him up. I was like, dude, congrats, man.
Awesome.
But like, I don't know if he's on a team right now. I don't know if anyone picked him up or if the Cowboys brought him back or anything. But I think it might be end of the road for him. And it was a shame because it really was the back injury that killed him, not the Achilles.
All right, so we got 2 more questions here, one from me, one from Vegas. I want to move a little bit more on the inside of the defensive line here. I've been hearing a lot of buzz around Byron Cowart potentially getting that job next to Quinnen. Again, I know it's super early. I also wanted to hear your thoughts on Leonard Taylor. I know they have a lot of stock in him. Is the Byron Cowart thing real? Could you see him securing that job for the start of the season, or do you think it's going to be someone like Leonard Taylor?
No, potentially. I mean, I think that's totally open. Like it's so hard to tell anything on the interior right now unless a guy's really flashing. Like Quinnen made a sack the other day that was like typical Quinnen Williams, but he's such an athletic freak that when you're not in pads, you're still going to see him pop. Some of these other guys, you're not necessarily going to see him that much. So unfortunately, I can't comment too much on that just because none of these guys have stood out to me yet. Granted, again, I've seen 2 OTAs and now 2 mini camps, so it's not a big enough sample size. I kind of need to get to training camp. Taylor is an interesting one because he is somebody that I know the last regime really liked. The talent is definitely there. I actually made a comment about this to Zach because I was standing next to him watching practice today. Taylor was out there with the 3rd team, which again, it's a rotation, it's only mini camp, whatever. But to see him out there with the 3rd team defensive line at defensive tackle, it was kind of like that was surprising to me because usually you have like the guys that are going to be legitimately in the rotation come Sundays. They're working with the 1st team. Like they might not be out there with Quinnen, but when Quinnen plays his 3 snaps and then comes off, the next guy goes in. Like, and all of a sudden Quinn will be next to this guy, then this guy will be next to somebody, and then this guy will be rushing next to Will. Seeing Leonard with the 3s was a little bit like kind of surprised by that. So maybe temper some expectations with him. But again, once the pads come on, so much can change. Like the pads come on with defensive linemen, and suddenly guys start popping. That's where Tack McKinley made the roster last year. McGregor made the roster last year. Huff made the roster when he was an undrafted free agent. Yeah. That's when the pads come on. That's when guys really pop.
Cool.
And staying on the defensive side of the ball, does anything seem different in the Steve Wilks scheme? I've kind of figured they'd be blitzing more and putting a little bit more pressure on their corners, leaving them a little bit more on an island. With improved safeties, it should in theory be a little more effective. But Rob Saleh was obviously all like zone. You rush 4, and that's it. You kind of rely on your pass rushers to get to the QB. Has there been any evidence of a significant scheme change with Wilks coming in?
Oh yeah, they're going to be way more aggressive. That's absolutely going to be the case. Now, I think it's going to be controlled aggression, where I don't think this is going to be like Steve Spags, where like they're blitzing every play, or like Wink Martindale when he was in the NFL, like just chaos. Like I don't think it's going to be like that, but they're going to be much more aggressive. And the best way to describe that, unfortunately, I'm in my office, my work, because I got to go to work tomorrow. They have another practice. My bag's downstairs on my notepad. But if I go back and look at the stats, man, like of players that have had sacks between OTAs and minicamp, like, yeah, there's the Quinnins and the Will McDonalds. Sherwood's also come in for a sack. I've got like two corners, like nickel corners with the second team that have sacks. Like there are so many different players registering sacks now, which tells you those guys are coming. Like they're like even the long pass to Garrett Wilson today that went right down the middle of the field, it was very close to a Cisco sack. Or yes, I believe that was Cisco. It was a safety or someone came in. So maybe with Tony Adams. It was very, very close to a safety getting a sack. So they are bringing a number of different people often. So I was told by somebody that this isn't Wilks's defense. If that makes, like, he's not running the defense that he ran with Carolina or San Fran. He's running Aaron Glenn's defense. So this is going to be Aaron Glenn's defense from the Lions, which is going to be aggressive. They're going to rush. Like they still want to get pressure with their four, but there's going to be much more aggression than you've seen under Robert, because like you said, Robert's defense was rush four, drop the rest back. Wide nine, rush four, attack with your four. We're not going to blitz, and that's not the case anymore.
Gotcha. Awesome. And we have one more to wrap it up. As an Italian American, how the hell have you not watched Sopranos until now?
Dude, so I was catching shit like this from the Jets media room. Like all of them were on my ass. So I'm 33. So when the Sopranos came out, I was 7. So again, that's not an excuse, but like my dad watched it. When he would put it on, I would sit down and my mom would make me go to bed. Having watched now the first 3 episodes, totally get it. I mean, there's like nudity every episode and like insane violence. So like I get why my mom was like, yeah, Connor, we don't want you looking at boobs when you're 7. Like that's not what we're gonna do, right? That's not your thing. So I was like, okay. Then my parents got divorced. My mom didn't have HBO. So like when I was now in high school, like I didn't have HBO to watch Sopranos. I got HBO again when I was in college. But like when I'm in college, I wasn't sitting there like, well, Game of Thrones is on, so I watched that endlessly.
Yeah.
But like I wasn't like in college, like, oh, let me sit down and like watch The Sopranos, right? So now after college, that's where I run out of excuses. Like, yeah, could I have sat down and watched it like over the last I graduated college 2015, so wow, 10 years. Over the last 10 years, could I have found some time to watch The Sopranos? Absolutely. I just didn't. And then like my father-in-law told me about it's a Mob Boss, the thing with Hardy. There's like a new a new like mob show, like an Italian
I know
mob
which
show.
one you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like Mob Boss or Mob Town or something like that with the guy who plays Venom, Tom Hardy, I think his name
Tom
is.
Hardy, yeah.
Yeah, so it's him, like he's in it.
Mobland.
And I was actually
Mobland.
about to, yeah. So Mobland, that's it. I was close. So I was about to sit down and watch it. I was like, you know what? I was like, before I go this one, let's go with The Sopranos.
Yeah,
and
just
then
go to the
I'll be
GOAT
honest with
one.
you, yeah, I was like, let's do this, and then we'll go into that one. But I got to tell you, dude, like first episode was really good. Second episode was like, okay, it wasn't bad. It was just like a whatever episode.
Yeah.
Third episode is where like I'm in. Like I can't wait now. Like I'm
it just keeps going like this.
You got a lot of shit coming.
It's probably my personal. I put Game of Thrones 1, and then Sopranos is a pretty close second. But I mean, you're talking primetime HBO television. Really, nothing beats it.
So you guys have all seen it, right? You guys have all watched Sopranos?
Yep. Oh yeah.
So we were talking about
because,
this.
I'm the same age as you, and like that's the first time I've ever heard because it was the same thing with my parents. It was like, all right, get out of the Sopranos is on. So
So have you guys all seen Breaking Bad as well?
Yep.
So we were talking about this in the media room. Like so Kaz, me, Rich, Al, like all like Zach, Andy, all of us were talking about this. Waz as well. We were like, how would you rank Breaking Bad and The Sopranos? And almost everyone agreed that Breaking Bad was better, just because Breaking Bad was one where like it just constantly went up, like it got better and better and better and better and better. When Sopranos kind of had a little bit like it was never bad. It was just some seasons were better than others. Some episodes, it was when Breaking Bad was just constantly up. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
I think you fall in love with the characters in The Sopranos a little bit more, where there's more emotional attachment to them. Whereas like Breaking Bad, it's just Walter and
Jesse
just constantly, like they're kind of the guys, and Hank and stuff. But like there's less guys to fall in love with. There's a little bit more of a family feel to Sopranos. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
kind
Other
of
than
like with Game
AJ.
of Thrones, it's like, you love all these characters, and then obviously, not spoiling anything for anybody, but, they all die. But so,
Yeah.
AJ sucks, by the way, Connor. He's the worst character in that show. Nobody likes him. Yeah, he's the son.
No, my father-in-law just told me that. We had my in-laws over today, and they stopped by while we were they watched Brooke, so my wife and I could get some additional stuff done around the house. And my father-in-law was like, "Just so you know, you're gonna goddamn hate your son." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "I'm trying to think who he was. Like, I know Meadow. Like, I know his daughter, but he goes, dude, you're gonna hate his son. Like, absolutely hate him." Yeah. It's funny you say that. Yeah, it's literally just said it like 15 minutes ago.
So I'm cutting it here. I have Sopranos 1, Breaking Bad 2. It's a 1A, 1B. I will give you a pass, Connor, because I know, power washing the side of the house. You're throwing kids' birthdays parties. You're covering 2 teams. So I do give you a pass. And I do want to say with that.
I appreciate that.
I do want to say with that, thank you for carving some time out of your day to come on Vulture's Row podcast.
Thank you guys so much for having me on. I know we were supposed to do this like last week or 2 weeks ago, so I'm glad we could still get it done. You guys can make this work for me, so I appreciate you having me on as always.
No worries. Regular friend of the show. Thanks, Connor. Thanks for tuning into Vulture's Row, guys, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.